Well, in this life, it started at approximately the age of 2. This was having what people term imaginary playmates, and gradually, as I grew older, this force expanded and I became reacquainted with Dr. Fisher, who is the main control, or the one that now takes over my body during this sleep or trance condition. It has its merits because I had parents that understood what was happening, and furthering myself in dimensions could at will leave the body. Well, the trance process began directly after that, say 5 or 6 years old, when I started using it to serve other individuals. But I can remember well the trance state, which we can call trance, from the moment of conception to being born, and then reviewing all the past lives of which I have had. When the conscious brain is sleeping, the spiritual force can leave it and sail out in dimensions, and there gain nourishment to continue its earthly experience. Now, there are many types of trance condition or sleep. We find it in nature and in all things. Simply put, it's turning on your awareness to the oneness of life, or this Vishnu force that Charlie speaks about. And then it's likened to a huge cosmic vacuum cleaner that turns on, and you feel yourself swept into a vast tunnel. And the speed is such that it's beyond what we call our speed of the world, and takes you into different dimensions of light and color. And when the body is being used by another entity, you get a drawing sensation to come back to your own body. And so you return and become your normal self again. Everyone is capable of it. It's simply that all individuals live in a state of fear, afraid to live and scared to die. And so this fear blocks them from opening to these outer dimensions that are around them.
Since I was an atheist in the body of Bertrand Russell of the past, since I was agnostic in observing the material conditions of humanity itself, I deemed it a personal favor to enter the body of this person to address the deafened ears of a suffering humanity. It is popular in your world today that there is a greater renaissance of life now happening through the desires of those that seek total illumination. And in that enlightenment, they seek outward to the trappings, superstitions, and traditions of your religions of your present day. They do not realize that the well-intended spiritual leaders of today are not fulfilling the spiritual understanding of life, but simply opening a Pandora box to all conditions irrelevant to the progress of man. Therefore, since I have flowed in this spiritual energy of total creation, I can admit openly and freely and unequivocally state, yes, there is a God. but not personified, not living in temples of grandeur and of great explosive ways. Rather, I see the God in all things, whether it be the grain of dust, or to the magnificent energies surrounding all galaxies and suns, of which you cannot dream possible in the intelligence and logic which is so popular in the beliefs of mankind at the present day. It is my purpose to enlighten those that seek the fullness of all spiritual value, and in that collective desire, so your world enters a greater transition than is realized by all scientific methods. Yes, your world will change its orbital pathway. Yes, your world will have a new freedom to its purpose and its origin, and that is the covering or overlayment of earth, air, fire, and water, and in the adhesion of same gives possibility to solid life as you know it in your world of the present time. But again, this changes into the deeper meanings, because here you are actually not a figure in the world. You are an obstruction, a shadow in the light forces of life. So you believe in your photography, but not the photographs that enter your brain force and mind source and interconnect you with the grandeur that you represent as God in your own right, as Christ anointed within your own energy, and that these gifts of spirit are opened widely to all. I only address those that open widely to the fullness of their meaning in the world, which is not by accident or a coincidence. Meaning mine was purely accident, and I'm glad to have dispersed from that robe of flesh that hindered my greater understanding of life, and shows me that in the continuation of pain and suffering, they are man-made and brought about by the constriction of his own limitations, rather than seeing the full unlimited source of his being. Thus those that wish to address me, I am open to your questions.
I'd like to start with a question. Could you say something, please, about, I think most of us get confused, we always get caught up in our egos thinking that it's a thing, it's a solid thing that we must save from death and all of this, but in actuality, it's a process, is what I believe it is anyway. It's more of a movement than a fixed thing. Could you speak about that, please?
First, I identify to myself, be respectful and identify your being.
I'm Jeff Thompson.
Then to answer your question, man is constantly limited by his personality, the facade of flesh worn over the spirit, and does not see the full essence of his total creation.